Hi guys. I'm going to take you through a few of the steps working with data in Excel or Sheets for those of you who either missed class or maybe just wanted to review some of the stuff. So this is my NBA test data. I've shared this with you, or a copy of it anyways. And I'm just going to show you how I went through my steps of ordering the data, how I found the values for the Mayer line method, and a little bit of how I use the software to come up with a scatter plot. So I have another tab down here. You can always add a tab using this, the plus sign at the very bottom. So in another tab, I've already ordered this, but I'll delete it out just to show you what it would look like if I started from scratch. Kind of, I'll just delete a bunch of stuff. I'll delete this guy. Delete. Okay, so in my original data, I've chosen to put this as my first column, but it kind of doesn't really matter. Your scatter plot is going to look the same. I'm going to copy that, just a Control C or a right click, copy, and I'll paste that as my first column. And we'll do the same thing with my free throw percentage, which I'm going to make my second column. Copy and paste here in the ordered data. Paste. If I want to order this, if I highlight all of the cells that I want under, I think here, data, if I sort the sheet and I sort it alphabetically, it automatically orders those things. This unfortunately has like shifted my titles. So I want my titles to be on the very top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this stuff, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it one cell down so that in here, I can put in my titles again. I don't know why I like pasted in such a weird way, but I'll put these all the way up top. Okay, cool. So now I've got my ordered data, and I need that to be able to come up with my formulas for the Mayer line method. So what I did was I labeled in here somewhere my cell, and it doesn't really matter where you do it. I put in an X1 and an X2 and a Y1 and a Y2. And I just put those in as labels, and you can put those in, like you can bold them, you can change the font if you want, you can change the alignment if you want. Bold, make them look a little nicer. But what's important is how to find the value. So if I type in this cell underneath X1, equal sign, and average, open brackets, Excel or Sheets knows that I want to calculate an average. And what I will do is go down and take half of the data. So mine goes until 51. So I have 50 data points. So I just want to take 25. So for me, that's going to be in cell 26 and enter. And it has calculated the average. That is the average. You can see it says equals average A2, 2 dots, A26. So that tells you that it's taking the average from cell A2 to A26. You could type that in manually. You don't have to click and drag, or you can change the values depending on what you're working on. Similarly, for X2, I can type in equals average, and I'll highlight the second half of the data. So starting at 27 to the bottom, enter. And I'll do the same thing for the Ys. I can even, if I take this and click and drag to the right, it automatically will input the same formula, but one set of cells over. So you can see here that if I check out the formula on top, it says now B2 to B26, which is what I want. It's column B and the same cells. So I'll format these the same just to have them all aligned and similar. So I've got those there. Now, what I did in class was I showed the calculation for the slope of the Mayer line. And we know that slope is just equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But you can have Excel or Sheets do that for you. I can just click on y2 minus y1. I click on the actual numerical values. And that allows for, if I change any of these data, these numbers will automatically change. I don't have to redo the calculation. Divided by brackets x2 minus x1. That's my slope calculation. in class, the same thing happened. Somebody asked, like, why is it equal to 0? That's not right. But it's just because the offset of that cell is to not show a whole lot of decimal places. And because of my data that are all like between 0.8 something and they're all really close numbers, the difference is quite small. So my slope is very small. And my b value, if you look at finding the b value, what you do is you take a point x1, y1 or x2, y2, and you plug it in, like y2 equals x times slope plus b. And to isolate the b, you would move the x times slope to the other side. So what you end up getting is y, either 1 or 2, minus slope times the x. And you can try to write that out by hand if you're unsure, just to make sure that that makes sense to you. And again, if I show more decimal places, I'll get a little bit more detail and data. And if I had plugged in the other point just to show you what that would have looked like, and I do the same thing, minus slope times that corresponding x, I should get a pretty similar value. And I do. It's correct to like many decimal places. It kind of shows that it doesn't matter what point you plug in. So there's the work for my Mayer line. To show you very quickly what to do about putting a graph in a scatter plot, if I highlight all of the cells, and Excel and Sheets do a really good job when the heading, like the top of the column, has the title in it, then it knows what to do with that. If you only have numbers, it won't automatically put in titles for you. But if you have the titles up there, and then I go to Insert and Chart, more often than not, Excel will recognize what type of graph I want. But if it doesn't, like in this case, this is not the kind of graph that I want. Let's see, where is it? Oh yeah, in here, chart type, what you actually want is a scatter. So if you have to scroll down, this is what I want, a scatter graph. But this is not the way I want that. Yeah, that's what I wanted. So I now have a set of these values are my x values and these are my y values. And if you want to play around with that a little bit, what I wanted, and I'm not sure why I didn't do that, but I'd like to have a chart title that shows something like free throw percentage career versus number of games. So I should have a title of my graph. I can also change this to have my horizontal axis. So horizontal is like the X, and that axis title is number of games. And I also can change this to put in my vertical axis title, which I would like to be free throw percentage. And I can do a few things like in the horizontal axis. So horizontal axis goes from 250 to whatever. I can change that if I want to have my minimum value 0. It doesn't change a lot, but I could. And what I probably actually want to do is under my vertical axis, because all the data is up near there, near the top, I probably want to have this start from like 0.5 to 1 or something like that, or even 0.6. A little bit more zoomed in on the data, or even 0.7. The stuff that we did in class that's really important and that is required for this project is that under series, you have to, if you scroll down in series, there's an option for adding a trend line. You need to do that. And if you scroll down a little bit further, I want you to do two things. One is to show the R squared value. The R squared is literally the R value, the correlation coefficient squared. So if you took the square root, it gives you an idea of how correlated this data is. The square root of 0.06, if you tried it out, the root of, I'm going to do it right now, 0.06 is 0.24, so it's like not a very strong correlation. And also under label, you want to show the equation. That's all the stuff that you should do for your project. You can email me if you have any questions. Also shout out to Ethan, who is currently checking this out right now live. Have a nice evening.